You wonder why you're still single when you've prayed, waited, matured, and stayed faithful, yet the silence feels like rejection. The waiting feels like punishment. And every time you see another engagement or wedding post, something in your soul quietly aches, as if God is withholding something you're desperate to receive. But here's the truth you don't hear preached. Sometimes God keeps you single not to torment you, but to prepare you for something that would destroy you if you entered too soon. Because marriage isn't a reward for good behavior, it's a spiritual assignment that demands the death of selfishness. And if you're still wrestling with your identity, your worth, or your emotional triggers, then maybe singleness is the mercy of God, not the neglect of God. And maybe He's hiding you not because you're undesirable, but because your destiny is too rare to be handled by just anyone. And the truth is, some of the most anointed people in Scripture were delayed in love so they could be accelerated in purpose. Just look at Paul, who wrote about love in 1 Corinthians 13 with such piercing clarity, yet lived his life single, not as a curse, but as a consecration, because he understood that intimacy with God must come before intimacy with man. And until you learn to be fulfilled in the presence of God, you'll always idolize the presence of a person. And that's exactly why some of your relationships failed. They weren't wrong people necessarily. They were just wrongly timed, and God, in His fierce love, would rather break your heart temporarily than see you destroyed permanently. And you wonder why the connections never last, why the chemistry always fades, why the conversations dry up. It's because God won't let your soul settle where your spirit cannot grow. And deep down, you know you weren't created for shallow love or surface-level attention. You were born for something deeper, something eternal, and God is guarding that with fire, because He knows the weight of the calling on your life. And until someone shows up who can cover that calling with honor, intercession, and spiritual integrity, you will remain hidden. And that hiding isn't punishment, it's protection. Because every delay is pregnant with divine intention, and you're not being left behind. You're being set apart. Just like Esther, who spent a year in purification before she was even presented to the king. Not because she wasn't worthy before, but because destiny requires preparation. And some of you are being prepared in silence, in obscurity, in loneliness. That feels like a desert, but is actually a greenhouse, cultivating patience, pruning pride, and producing oil you'll need for the journey ahead. Because the truth is, God doesn't just want you to get married, He wants you to stay married. And that requires healing, depth, and discernment. And if you're honest, there are still places in you that are too fragile to carry the weight of covenant, too impulsive to choose love over ego, too fearful to trust fully. And God, in His mercy, is not giving you what you're praying for because He's working on what you're not praying about. Like that insecurity you mask with busyness, that unresolved trauma you cover with smiles, that bitterness from past rejection you pretend isn't there. And God is saying, I'm not delaying to punish you, I'm delaying to deliver you. Because your future spouse isn't looking for someone who's just attractive or talented or fun to be around. They're looking for someone whole, someone spiritually awake, someone who doesn't need them to be Jesus because they already walk with Him. And until you become that person, you will keep mistaking loneliness for readiness and attention for love. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength, Isaiah 40:31. And part of that strength is the ability to see beyond the now, to trust beyond your feelings, and to stand when everything in you wants to settle, because not every good person is a God person. And some of the loneliest marriages started with impatient dating. And God doesn't want you yoked to someone who loves your body but ignores your soul. Someone who quotes scripture but can't live it. Someone who prays in public but manipulates in private. And if you're still drawn to people who disrespect your boundaries, disregard your values, or distort your worth, then you're not ready. Yet not because you're not lovable, but because your love needs to be sanctified, refined, and aligned with heaven. And sometimes the hardest thing to accept is that what you call delay, God calls development, because the wilderness always comes before the promised land. And He's not keeping you single to deprive you, He's using your singleness to develop spiritual muscles you'll need in marriage, like communication when your feelings get hurt, patience when your needs aren't met, humility when you're right but need to choose peace. And if you can't master those things alone, you'll multiply dysfunction together. And God is too faithful to allow you to build on a cracked foundation. So He's letting you feel the tension, the silence, the ache, because that ache will drive you to the altar, not of marriage, but of surrender, where you stop asking, God, when will they come? And start praying, God, make me the kind of person someone can build eternity with. Because it's not about getting someone to choose you. It's about becoming someone worthy of being chosen. And that means dealing with the hidden idols of your heart, the secret comparisons, the pride you've dressed up as independence, the fear of vulnerability that's disguised as standards, and letting God tear down everything that competes with His lordship in your life. Because you can't say Jesus is Lord and still try to script your own love story. And the truth is, God knows what you don't. He sees the heartbreak that would come from that person you're crying over, the divorce that would follow that engagement you wanted, the spiritual compromise that would slowly kill your calling. And in His mercy, He shut the door, not to frustrate you, but to free you. Because what's for you won't require begging, chasing, or pretending. It will align. It will sharpen you. It will pull you closer to Jesus. And if it doesn't, then it's not Him. And if it's not Him, it's not for you. And you have to trust that even when it hurts, even when you feel forgotten, even when it feels like God is silent while everyone else is celebrating, because He's not ignoring you, He's investing in you, preparing a table not just for your wedding day, but for the mission that will come after it. And until your heart can say, Jesus is enough, even if I never marry, you're not ready, because you were never created to find completion in another human being. You were made for communion with God. And when that becomes your foundation, love won't distract you, it will enhance you. It won't detour you, it will propel you. And if you're in a season of singleness, don't waste it wishing it away. Steward it like the sacred preparation it is. And don't let the enemy lie to you and say something's wrong with you. Because you're not being overlooked, you're being handpicked. And your season isn't barren, it's becoming. And the one whose worth the weight is being molded to, in hidden places, in unseen battles, and when God finally brings your paths together. It won't be by chance or charm, it will be by divine orchestration, to lives forged in fire, shaped by surrender, and ready for kingdom impact. And until then, don't rush what God is still writing. Don't chase what God hasn't confirmed. And don't settle for a lesser love just because you're tired of being alone. Because you are not alone, God is with you in this season, closer than breath, preparing you in ways you don't even realize. And one day, when you're standing next to the one He kept you for, you'll thank Him for every no, every closed door, every lonely night, because it led you not just to love, but to wholeness, to purpose, to Him.